Hey YouTube, it's Dimitri. Today we're going to talk about AGI, so Artificial Generalized Intelligence, GPT-4, ChatGPT, OpenAI. It's all been happening. I made a post probably this last week talking about I don't really want to talk about it. I'm not really happy with what's going on with it. I don't think there's a lot of understanding about it. I have a bunch of negative feelings on this, but let's dive on into a little bit on my thoughts and feelings here. I'm trying to lay this out in a PowerPoint because I don't know any other way to do it. And realistically, I would need like multiple hours and conversations and interviews to really get out the ideas and thoughts and processes because it impacts all of society, unlike the little tech bubble where it seems like most people are just kind of focusing here. So what is ChatGPT? GPT takes written or visual input and generates texts through a model type called LLM. So large language models here. It's a model. Like, this is part of my frustration with the whole community. And you'll see here as I just kind of rail on machine learning and AI a bit throughout this presentation. And there's a precursor to this. No, I do not think everyone in any specific industry thought process is dumb. But machine learning, along with other fields such as quantitative finance, for example, have had a few really, really smart, sharp people, and they've just been flooded with incompetencies, which we're going to see here in a bit. And tech is kind of like that as well. But no, I don't think everyone's dumb and incompetent. I don't hope that's the takeaway. Like, I hope you guys realize I'm not saying everybody is dumb. However, there are mass waves of bad actors involved in a lot of these different areas. But I'll get into that in a little bit here. And here's a quote from Scientific American. So just Google it online. It says, not only can GPT-4 produce more natural sounding texts and solve problems more accurately than its predecessors, it can also process images in addition to text. But the AI is still vulnerable to some of the same problems that plague earlier GPT models, displaying bias, overstepping the guardrails intended to prevent it from saying offensive or dangerous things, and hallucinating. So it puts it in quotes here because these models can go off the rails, or confidently making up falsehoods not found in its training data. So that comes from that website. Again, it's a model. Their data goes in, data comes out. That's how models work. There's nothing intelligent about this. It's literally a model. It's just math. So what can it do here? This is the question I have been wondering because I've been watching all of the tweets online. I've been watching all the failed attempts of GPT. I've been watching all the successes of it. And I'm like baffled by the articles that are coming out that it is going to replace like everybody. It's going to make all of us, I don't know, unemployed, and it's going to fix all of our world problems, and we're all going to sit back and just relax, and a few people are going to run the world, and we're all going to be happy just being slaves to the system here. But this is like a site I found with some of the top 30 cool things it can do. And I hope when you read this, you realize most of these are not impressive. It makes the snake game cool. Okay. It turns hand-drawn sketches into websites. Okay, that's interesting and kind of cool in itself. I'm sure it doesn't do, though, lots of features and debugging issues that have to go into the coding side. So I actually worked in HTML and CSS web design back in early 2000s. So before all these systems like Wix and these automated Squarespace and things like that build websites. I actually used to hand build websites. There's a lot of nuanced details you want. Now, when Wix and Squarespace and all these other ones came out, it's far easier to use those to make websites quickly. This is what I'm thinking this is going to be doing here. Now, if you want something really specialized and specific, and there's models and things behind the scenes that do calculations and predictions and everything, no, it's not going to do it. Like, it's not going to do it now. It might do it in the future, but there's still a lot of details into this and how it's going to play into here. So yeah, it's cool. It saves us some time there. Might replace some design work, but again, you need someone to tell it what to design, how to design it, and how to debug it, and how to implement that website onto a platform. There's a lot of other pieces. You're still going to need experts in here to help with this. It's just making web design a little bit faster, a little bit more efficient, a little easier. But it's not going to be doing a bunch of customizations. One-click lawsuits. So on the right-hand side here, I put look at the details, though. Like, I went to this website, so it's the insaneapp.com. This is where this list is coming from. It's just stupid. Like when you start opening these up and it's like, oh, it's gonna replace all these lawyers. No, it's not. One-click lawsuit is basically you get a spam call, and so then you're like, oh, I got a spam call here. I'm gonna click in here, and then it will send out a lawsuit and process the paperwork for it. It's like, anyone who's a lawyer is going to look at that and just kind of laugh, because there's so many steps involved with lawsuits. Sure, it files some paperwork. You'd still have to go to court. You'd still have to find the people. Most of these spam calls are coming from, I don't know, India, other third world countries where a lot of the spam's being generated. So US law doesn't apply there, and there's all kinds of issues with it. So again, it's kind of some hand wavy magic, like, oh, look at this cool case. And it's not really as impressive as it's kind of sounding. Beautiful animations in Swift US. That's kind of cool. Dump a live Ethernet contract onto here. Like, okay. Like blockchain and all that's already automated. Okay, you put a contract on there? I don't know. I don't see much value in this. It's like you take out one step out of an entire process of a bunch of steps, and I don't know. There's not a lot of value. I don't see it in this. Drug discovery. So I was like, wow, this is impressive. Drug discovery. And then you open it up and you find the person that tweeted it and asked it some question. And it finds chemicals that are like other chemicals, and then you can order them and ship them to yourselves. This should be banned because there are lots of chemicals that are similar to other chemicals that are not the same as other chemicals and have devastating effects on health. I'm not going to go into that too much. I'm not a chemist, but I know many molecular structures are similar to other ones. Some are deadly, some are healthy. Doing this again is a mass danger here. And I will get into this in a little bit, but those that are creating these AI technologies, I think should be taking some legal responsibility for this. So let's say a company advertises this and uses GPT-4 for this. And I go and use their product. So let's say it's company AI exclusive, and AI exclusive decides to do this. I take these drugs and I die. I hope somebody sues them because you're recommending things that you don't know anything about. Even world's top chemists and scientists and all of these smart people that work in the medicine industry and the drug industry, you still have to do studies and tests. And so this isn't going to replace that. You're still going to have to do tests and look at side effects. I can just imagine now. So this is where some of the dangers are coming in. A lot of stupid people in the tech industry, in the machine learning space, and the AI space here that are way too excited on replacing everybody, but know absolutely nothing about, the expertise of the topic. I could see them generating a drug and people taking it and doing an experiment. They know it has all these side effects, and then using it again to find other chemicals to address those side effects. And then those creating more side effects, and then people dying. And then this magical loop that we thought was magic is just a model looking at simple structure. But again, no common sense and science was involved in this. So 6, dangerous, scary, pretty stupid. Number 7, dating, matchmaking. Again, I don't really care. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, there's Match.com and I don't know, Bumble and all these apps. I predate all these things. I was done with relationships way before all this came out. Yeah, you can make matches. Cool. Like, there's already stuff to do that, even if it's slightly better. Again, we are humans. Humans are not like A plus B equals C. So if I can find the common denominator in these, individuals, I'll magically find the world's perfect match. No, this is stupid. Like, again, tech people not understanding real people. Snake and Pong. Again, Snake, second time in the same list, plays Pong. Like, I mean, guys, we did this as humans like long ago with minimal technology. I'm not sure how this is impressive. Sure, it does it faster. Okay. I can copy someone else's code and copy and paste and do it in seconds too. I don't know. I just don't think this is very impressive. Generate an episode of Friends. Again, so you made a TV show off of other TV shows that is, I'll put in air quotes, unique because you copied general patterns from a show and you auto-generated them. We'll talk about novelty here in a bit. And it wrote a book. Again, none of this has quality baked into it. So where's the quality assessment? Like you'll see here is the common thread. People that are really excited about this is really the developers of the model created a model that can fool people. And the people that are fooled are really excited. And the people that aren't fooled like me are like, okay, like it generated text. That's not the purpose of this. So sure, it can do a bunch of stuff here. I saw somebody complaining it's replacing some jobs, like in like design work for like video games and stuff, and rendering and creating 3D objects. I would argue, sure, it can create some things, but you still have to have somebody to input the information on what you want it to do. So you're still going to have someone to do that. They mentioned it takes out a lot of the creativity and all this stuff. I think it's going to actually open up more doors in those cases, and the fact that, yes, it's fun and exciting and you've studied really hard to figure out how to do like character design within specific frames and texture and all that rendering. I've had a brief stint in Blender, if you know what that is. But anyways, it's going to open up more doors for creativity, and it'll hopefully allow the humans to run faster with ideas and put things together and create more granularity and details. I know that's not what it's doing right now, but I see where it's going for a lot of these jobs here. Again, it's going to get rid of a lot of the redundancies. That's what we're talking about. It's doing things that are easy and simple, and it's doing it faster. And I'm all on board for that. So thumbs up where it can help us. The dangers though. So, is it danger or friend here in this slide? So I apologize. My screen's a little too big for my setup here. Anyways, it can simplify simple tasks that need text output. So it can increase productivity. Awesome. Like, I'm already for that. I'm not against it, but I'm also not like thinking it's going to revolutionize reality. Like, it'll make things simpler and more efficient. It'll revolutionize many industries in that way, but it's an efficiency productivity tool. That's really all it is. The dangers though come from humans blindly following the machine and overhyping every possible outcome. Humans are dumb. I don't know if you guys have woken up to this reality yet. Like, it's really easy to get fooled by a machine. And this is why I think it's dangerous. I don't think it's dangerous in the sense that, it's literally a mathematical model that is way too complex and overly built in a black box from its creators. And there's a whole issue with this, which I'll talk about later. But I mean, it's just way overhyped. My concern though is how people use it. So there are many things in life, which we'll talk about later in this presentation as well, that are vastly dangerous and can kill people and, devastate lives and ruin all kinds of things and destroy the environment and all kinds of horrible things. But again, it's how people use it. So you're going to have guardrails and ethics and morals. And unfortunately, the vast majority of people don't really have those as strongly baked in as we would like. And then you go country to country, and morals and ethics and things are flexible and different and change. And the creator, the CEO, OpenAI, was talking on Lex Fridman, we're going to create the ability to bias and steer and create, cultural frameworks. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit too, and how that's bad. But it's dangerous in the fact that like people are just running blindly with this. They're all trying to make money from it. So every AI expert, I'll put in air quotes here, and every software company is running out to make money off of this, right? They want to make money. They want to manipulate people. Please give me your money. Like, let me figure out how to dupe investors into investing in this. This is in its infancy. It's been in its infancy. I don't think we're going to see a skyrocketing explosion of like AI takes over the world, which is what I think everybody that doesn't understand models is starting to do here. And it's shockingly scary that people buy into this. But yeah, people are going to use this for absolutely horrible things. That's the danger piece. It's going to be used horribly wrong because people don't understand what they're doing with it. It can also and will be used to manipulate people and drive us to all be the exact same. So this is where my concern really comes from, is from a different perspective, I think, than most. No, I don't see these things rising up, the machine rising against the man. You still have to have servers, and humans have to maintain those servers. Humans have to maintain the code and the model. There's still a lot of work that goes into even just running GPT-4. It's not as if like Sam Altman and OpenAI have just like released the whole thing and it's just out running wild, and like people's imaginations get too out of control with this. But I'm going to talk about this here in a second, but we're basically training on ourselves. And so ourselves are going to be regenerative, and the model, when it picks the bias of who it thinks it should recommend, the ideas and the thoughts, we will see a wide swath of ideas currently, which I would argue was much wider probably 10, 20 years ago. The internet's stupidity has shrunk this down into these groups and pockets. And we see a lot of this with politics now. It's quite polarizing. And then we're going to get into these echo chambers that we're currently in, and it's going to narrow and narrow and narrow. And what you'll find out with AI is it doesn't think. It's a model. And because it can't think, it's not going to generate new ideas. It's not going to create these explosive differences in intellectual discussions that we try to have nowadays, but seem to have been drying up with the internet, which is like reasons why Joe Rogan's so popular. Like, I don't agree with a lot of what he says. But at the end of the day, it's interesting to see people's ideas and discussions on here. So again, it's going to be used to manipulate people. The internet's already been doing this. It's been kind of curating people to think the same. There are people that want you to do specific things that have money and power. There's corruption involved in these sort of systems here. And of course, those that have money and power and corruption, they're going to continue to do corrupt things with it. So this is where a lot of the dangers are coming from. This, I think, is where Elon Musk is concerned in some instances. I haven't read too much of his current dialogue with it. But I know they did the letter with Steve Wozniak and him and a bunch of other people. It's like 1,200 plus people. Yeah, there are ethical concerns with this from a variety of spectrums. I think, convincing people to think a specific way, when I tell you that and I'm like, I'm going to convince you to do stupid things, you're like, I'm not going to do it. But you'll do it because eventually you realize this atmosphere that we create with lack of diversity is going to be the same thought, the same ideology. When you go to look facts up, you're like, the sky is, is orange every day. Every morning I get up, it's orange. You're just stuck in this rotational nonsensical garbage where everywhere you look, everyone's telling you the same thing. So this is one of the big dangers with it. But this leads me more to the intellectual side of you have to think these things through, because I don't think the tech industry is thinking this through. And I feel absolutely horrible because I see people that are like, I'm going to drop out of my master's degree. The whole world is ending. All these jobs are useless. And again, everyone that's written these stupid articles, including someone sent me like a clip from University of Pennsylvania, one of their dumb programs. So yes, University of Pennsylvania, I think you're stupid for creating these lists. They're trying to create like, oh, this is the percentage of jobs that are going to be replaced by it. And they're all speculative because the reality is the person that makes the list or the small group of people that make this list have not worked in any of those jobs. So they've probably worked in maybe 1, 2. They're academics usually, so they've worked in academia. So even academics in like, quantitative finance, for example, don't really understand what we're doing in industry. So you can't predict these things. They're very like off the cuff, like, oh, I think this industry is dumb, so let me explain how GPT is going to replace all of you. No, that's not how it's going to happen. You're not going to see a lot of replacement, I don't think, in many areas. I think you will in some, but I don't think it's going to be as crazy as people are thinking here. But that leads me to this question of why do we write? Why do humans write? I think there's a massive discrepancy with people in the tech realm that think that what's happening is that we just store ideas and facts, and then we all just access these facts and we make decisions and we all move on. There's literally no understanding of human conception. There's no understanding of consciousness. You're throwing everything that is human about humans out and you pretend we're all machines. And this is pretty stupid. So one reason that we write is to express ideas and feelings. Not surprisingly. So when a machine writes it for you, it doesn't have the same effect. It is not going to have the same effect. So I just tagged a little research study here as well. You can find all kinds of studies supporting this. But Sahal, Singh, Dillon, and Gill 2022, they have an academic paper on reduction in stress and anxiety from journaling. Again, this is really common practice. Academics, people are realizing this is quite beneficial. It helps you organize your thoughts and ideas, I have here. It works you through complex ideas as well. So if any of my people I've ever worked with know, if I don't have a whiteboard marker in my hand of some sorts or a pencil and a piece of paper, I am not truly thinking. I have to put ideas on paper. I do things that are more complex. I have to put all the pieces together. You can't mentally store and hang on to things and piece them together. Even when I teach, I have to write and design and put things like align them and do all this. We need to write as humans to function. It's not just memorizing facts and looking them up. You have to write. This is why I would argue many people have all kinds of issues with anxiety and disorders with it now. ADHD is massive. People do not learn to think anymore. This is dying because the internet's there. You can just look up some answer on your phone and it says, a grape weighs 2 million pounds. Well, that just must be what it weighs. And that's just what we accept. There's not a lot of thought processing going on because people have stopped writing. So again, reduction in stress and anxiety is coming from journaling. So it doesn't matter if you're using it. You can use technology. You can journal on your computer. I think some of these studies have shown computer journaling has same effects as, handwriting on paper and pen. So I think that's a critical piece here as well. Again, it organizes my thoughts. As I mentioned, I can't function. I work in I would say, the cutting edge of many areas of quantitative finance. I'm doing research. I'm reading textbooks and I'm re-challenging ideas. Again, these are things that are not available on the internet. They're just not. Most of the stuff on the internet is absolutely wrong, and it's horrible, overly simplified garbage generated by people who, so I have textbooks behind me. I was going to show you one, but these textbooks, they just take the material and they regurgitate the material without understanding it, and they make contradictions and mistakes as they generate it, the same way that AI will be doing it. And AI will be pulling from these resources of people, again, that are just, not experts. And so even when I read textbooks from authors, sometimes the authors make mistakes. And so I read 2-3 textbooks. I'm challenging my ideas and trying to put it together. Again, the internet has dumbed us down in the thinking part of this, which is something I think is not taught very often in schools anymore. AI is going to make this even worse. It's just how it is. So again, the AGI, the GPT here, it's all generating, you put in some ideas and things, and then it generates out the writing process. The writing process in itself has value. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Again, it provides different perspectives as well. So being able to write and read and understand and think, science, political, entertainment, like everything we do as humans is very like written oriented. Even when so many of you probably don't know this, but if you listen to podcasts and you really enjoy the podcast, many podcasts are written before they present them and they read them, which I think is very odd. That's not how I work. But I have to write down ideas, and like I couldn't present this because I was off the rails when I recorded my thoughts on GPT before. And in my head, I have this spider web of convoluted ideas and everything's tying together. But the reality is, in my head, it makes sense. It's not going to make sense when I regurgitate it to you. And I found on YouTube and other platforms, for example, I can tell you all kinds of things, but whatever you want to hear, whatever pieces you want to hear out of my message is what you're going to get. So I have made videos that like completely have one message in it, and people get the opposite message because that's the idea they have, and it shocks me. But again, this perception, this looking at different viewpoints, this understanding, this talking, these are pieces that are critical to humans, to thought, to evolution, to advancements in society. These sorts of things are going to start drying up, and we're going to see an intellectual divide happening because more and more people are going to be relying on the internet, which they've done in the last 10, 20 years. And I would think this has dumbed down many, many people. At least that's my theory on this. I haven't gone out and looked at academic research and papers on this, but I'm sure there are some out there. And then as we're dumbing down thinking now, if you have a tool that just does the writing for you. So I see people say, school and universities are going to be useless anymore. AI is going to take over completely. It can just write all these essays for you. Again, it's because of this slide here. Like, you're not understanding why we write. Like, as a professor, I want you to write me a paper on something because I want to see that you understand it. And when you understand it, I want you to be able to apply this to new ideas and new situations here. So there needs to be some thought and some creativity here. Again, things that are redundant, like if you think like the real world is like running out there and like, okay, look up, this fact, and then I'll just put this fact here and it does my job. I feel bad for you. Like, you just don't really understand how the world works. That's not how you add value here. So anyways, that is why we write. That is why writing in itself is important. So GPT is nothing more than something that generates text or writing here. I'll note a little asterisk here as well. Coding is a sort of writing. It's a sort of processing. So when I code, it is my mental thought process. It's how I work through things here. So even if I could say, ChatGPT, make me a model for loan pricing on defaults with this data set, and then I chucked it all in and it generated something, it still doesn't satisfy risk management practices. It still doesn't give us understanding. It doesn't tell us what we should manipulate and change and move about our current actions to get better actions in the future here. So even the coding part, even the modeling part, which we're going to get to here in a bit, you need to think and write. That's part of the process here. You have to do it to really get out the most out of what you're doing and add the most value here. And this leads me to what is human value. So humans seek balance in novelty and redundancy. I'll put an asterisk here and put Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, an Antidote for Chaos. I believe the same ideology here. So show you I'm not just blowing smoke. I have, the first book, which is the one I'm referencing here. And I have the second Jordan Peterson book. The dust sleeve is gone because I'm disorganized. But he talks about in these books here, some of the ideas is that you need this balance of novelty, so things that are new and exciting and cutting edge that stress you and stretch you. And you also need some sort of balance, some predictability, some redundancy here. It makes you mentally sane. I don't want people going mentally insane. I don't want to see an epidemic of health issues because we have blindly implied or applicated here, applied, I guess that's the word, AI here. Like, we need to think about the balances and the repercussions from a human perspective. Optimization for the sake of optimization and maximizing and making money is good. But we also have to think about the consequences and the externalities and then weigh the cost benefit analysis, which doesn't seem to be going on here with the overexcited AI people and ML communities in tech. Again, this is how you find meaning in life. So I don't know if you guys have realized this. There is no technology in the world that can tell you the meaning of life. You have to work through the process on yourself. You have to find meaning within your own life. These sorts of things are critical. These are absolutely critical, and everybody's meaning will be slightly different. And as I have aged and matured and changed, my meaning of life kind of shifts and deviates. There's a common thread, it being around the educational spectrum here, which hopefully many of you have seen this through my videos, but everybody's going to have some other sorts of meaning. Family, human interactions, relationships all play into this meaning here. You need balance in your life. Balance is the key to happiness, okay? Balance is the key to almost everything. So if you're at that novelty threshold 24/7, you're going to be so fried and so stressed out. You're not going to make it very long. If you have nothing but redundancies, you'll be bored out of your mind. But there are plenty of research studies on the benefits of being bored. It clears the mind, it reduces stress. So again, if we use AI to reduce all redundancies and to optimize and all this, I think you will lose out on a lot of benefits in society. So even for myself, people don't always know this, but I do all kinds of things on my own that I wouldn't have to do. I could easily pay someone to do it. One of these examples is roofing. So roofing I find to be fairly redundant. You take shingle, you line up shingle with shingle to the left of it, and you make sure you have the proper overlap with the one below it, because you start from the bottom and work your way up. And you have either a hammer and a nail, or you got a nail gun and you shoot in 3 to 5 nails and you set it up, and then you grab another shingle and you do the same thing, and you go from left to right, and then you go up to the next layer and you go from left to right to left to right to left to right. It is very repetitive. It is physically demanding, so it's not like an easy process here, but the redundancy helps clear your mind. And I was talking to someone at work here, my boss, about the same process, and they were saying they also get this benefit out of doing like repetitive manual labor. It clears the mind, it reduces the stress. Again, we don't want to see things like chat or AI and GPT and all that reduce all these redundancies, and that this is beneath me. Like, I see there's a class issued here too, which I'll talk about in a little bit, where people are just waving their hands and like those lower class people, like, who cares if we replace them? There's not a thought of the fact that this has mental implications for everybody, including yourself. So redundancy, simplicity, those sorts of things shockingly have health benefits. So being bored is actually a good thing in many ways. Again, I want human interactions, genuine human interactions. I don't want somebody just to generate something and give me a message, because that's the message that, you know, the machine tells me that I'm supposed to give you. Vanderbilt University here, excellent example of this. There was a shooting down there in Tennessee. They wrote some sort of like apology letter thing, and you know, it was AI generated, and of course AI generates complete garbage in most cases here. It's good enough to fool many humans, but no human reviewed, I don't think, the content of this letter, or if not, they were just, I don't know, not paying attention. Anyways, the letter was terrible, and people realized it was not generated from a human. Again, when you have an incident like a shooting, you have some sort of accident happen, I want human interaction. I want the school to tell me how bad they personally feel. If a machine just generates the letter that's supposed to be generated, I don't know if you actually feel bad or not. Imagine an apology from someone because they screwed you over and it's from a machine. Like, you're getting rid of the entire purpose of communicating. Like, it just drives me nuts, but people want this. Social media has already destroyed a lot of this as well. I am strongly against all the AI image adjustments and things. So if you look at my Instagram, or you look at even my YouTube, for example, they're not edited in visually. Like, I might change the color contrast because sometimes I shoot here at nighttime. So today's daytime. Sometimes I shoot at night. and it's just really dark and I have yellow lights and I could set everything up. It takes more time, but I don't really edit in the sense like I don't change the way my face looks. I don't change all that on Instagram. I might change some lighting and whatnot, but that's about it. If I have like a marketing team or something working with me, they might do some basic edits as well, but I don't want them to change who I am. I don't want them to alter the size of my eyes. I don't want them to make me look prettier or something. Like, it's just fakeness. It's fakeness everywhere. It's why I absolutely hate many pieces of social media here. And I'll contrast this with the fact that I think internet and social media has been very devastatingly not good for society in many ways. But I will put on there are some great positives with this. So I follow some farmers and some gardeners and people on Instagram, and it's really intriguing, interesting to see their real lives. I think they're a little more authentic in the sense that, again, we're having a human interaction. It's not them faking like this perfect life. They have issues and they talk about the issues and they connect. And I hope that's what my YouTube channel does as well, is I want to connect with you on a real level. Like somebody mentioned recently, like, Dimitri, it's great seeing that you talk about your failures. And it's like, I'm just human. I want you guys to realize I'm human. I want you to see the failures, and I want you to realize you're also going to fail. And when you fail, I don't want you to compare yourself to some like unrealistic personality or fakeness that's been put on the internet. So again, AI, AGI, GPT, when you get rid of the human interactions here, you're getting rid of a lot of the value and the experience in being human. It's not that it's like getting rid of something that we don't care about. It's trying to get rid of things that make everyone unique. Now, imagine you can get this to the point that it seems really realistic. This makes it even worse because now you're feeling like you're trying to connect with a human. You don't know what to trust anymore. You lose faith in like humanity and in the sciences and technology. And like, imagine dating online and all these fake robots out there and people are using them to scam people and all this. There are many, many horrid uses for AGI here. So again, pros, cons. Social media has some benefits. It's nice to stay connected to people. But I would argue probably every social media site has gone off the rails. Like I used to have Instagram with just the people I knew. And now it's like ads and garbage and all these other things that you might be interested in this. And it's 90% of the feed now. I don't care. I don't follow many people on Instagram for a reason. I just want to see my life. I don't want to see everything else here. And I think this is where we're seeing, again, maximization for advertising dollars is going to come into this, which we'll talk about here in a bit. The other main point here is AI is not intelligent. I don't know how to explain this to people. It is a model. It links things together based on likelihoods. This is how modeling works. If you are out there thinking it's actually intelligent, I am vastly disappointed in you. You have learned nothing from my channel here. It's only used, past information to design and structure the model itself. And this is part, I think, the issue somebody pointed out, which is OpenAI has so much information feeding into it to develop these models. That information has not been validated. We don't know that all the information that it trained on is actually good information here. So it's learning processes and procedures. It's taking in information. It creates a modeling structure. You ask it a question. It uses that model structure to link words and ideas together, and it generates an output. It's a model. My concern with this, as I mentioned before, is that we're going to see a reduction in diversity of ideas and thought. This is nothing more. So if you're a time series guru and love time series like myself, this is like an AR1 process or an autoregressive sort of model here. It could be an AR2, 3, 6, 12, whatever you want to call it. But it's autoregressive. And what ends up happening is it says, okay, the value from, so an AR1 process takes the value from yesterday and it says, okay, we're going to predict that value for tomorrow multiplied by some sort of scalar. So it doesn't give you the exact value yesterday, but it's slightly different. If you've done this process here, you'll realize, so same with moving averages, over time, usually a shorter period, which is why ARIMA models are fairly unstable and why modeling has issues in itself because it's not the real world, it's a model. It converges to a value. So it's like taking a wide range of ideas, thinking about this like in a moving average framework, for example. And as you average all those ideas out, the average of these ideas is going to give you a central idea for the new prediction. And then you take the average of the ideas in the next period, which is going to be different over time. So imagine this is built on data from, 1960 or something, or 1900 forward. It's going to keep averaging, but as you average averages, once you start getting to average of averages, the average of the averages is going to be the average. I know it's a little bit of a tongue twister, but that gives you the same value. So it's going to converge. You have to have something in the system. You have to have new data to shock the system, to move the model structure, to change the averages here. And so people are going to say, well, these models, these large language networks, they're going to train all this new data coming in. Yes, but you're going to have a feedback loop here. So now you're going to say, okay, all these people are using GPT or some sort of AGI to actually think about their answers. They're going to search things, get ideas, training. They're all learning from the same model. And those ideas, the variance in those are going to go down and down and down and down. And, and you saw the interview with Lex Friedman, he's talking about the correct answer. Like often it'll have 10,000 responses it can give. And often it's only giving 5,000, essentially meaning number 1 is the best, number 10,000 is the worst, 5,000 is like the average. And it can give you a variety of, responses based on factors within the model and your profile and everything. And the problem though is when you think about that is that 10,000 is going to generate a new data set of opinions. And if you had 10,000 actual true opinions beforehand, which resulted in 10,000 scores, if 10 or 20 of those reduce, which doesn't seem like many, now you have a smaller sample of ideas to go off of. And so the model will fine tune tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And eventually we'll all be going through the majority nonsensical jargon, and the people that think differently will be outcasted and thought as crazy people, because obviously like people always say, oh, I'm going to fact check you. They fact check me and they find some garbage and they go, see, look, it says right here. And I'm just like, the first 20 websites all had that answer, but then the last one had a different answer. And so you just look through there, which one you want. Like if you want to go with the majority, you pick the 20. If you want to disprove it and go with the minority answer, you go with 21 or whatever was different. So again, this is going to converge. This is going to, I think, kill a lot of thoughts and ideas, which leads me to the question of who will generate truly new ideas. If you're using this AGI and you're overly dependent on it, which is what's going to happen, because many cases, like we're humans, our mental capacity is limited. Everybody's mental capacity is limited as a human. And so we can only process so many things. So I seem smart because I talk stats and math, and a lot of people don't specialize in that. But when you go to stats and math people, like they look at me and they go, yeah. Dimitri knows this sliver of information, the stats and math area. If you ask me about other, crazy topics, I just don't know, because my mental capacity is limited. But you need people that are going to specialize and be on the cutting edge, generating those news ideas to get back into that system to fix it, which then leads to the question of how do you make those ideas have better weights within the model? And how do you know who's an actual expert and who's just regurgitating garbage online? If you look at machine learning and data science, for example, it's the hot trendy thing to do. And everybody's got a post or a blog post or a Substack or a Reddit. They've all got something online with their opinions and their regurgitated copy and paste from other sites. And so bad ideas explode into even worse ideas, and everybody has the same dumb idea, which is really common with the ML movement. And so we just see a lot of incompetencies and bad ideas in the ML space. Now, this happens in other areas as well. Politics is a great example of this. We have bubbling of specific camps and political ideology. And it just feeds itself, guys. Like it's not a good thing. This is not good. We should not be over reliant on this. We should put rules and restrictions in place on where we should use it, where we shouldn't use it. This, I think, is a lot of the open letter that Elon Musk and Steve Wozniak and all them published. That's why we're wanting a 6-month pause. We want more rules and regulations and ethics and morals put in place to guide this so that we don't end up in this issue where we're cycling and end up spinning out of chaos and people are brainwashed into thinking things they don't really think because the only information they see comes from a model, and models are not perfect. We all know that. All models are wrong. I think this came back to like George Box got some of the, he's a statistician. George Box got some of the credit for this. I think somebody else in a movie or book or something re-quotes it. I think it believes it comes even from someone else before George Box, but George Box gets the credit, deserves it. But yeah, basically all models are wrong and some models are useful. Like we all know this, the fact that there's going to be people that don't know what models are, the general public, for example, guys, they're going to have to depend on these sorts of things and pretending that they're correct and groundbreaking and shocking and they're going to do everything for you. You're not helping the general public. So I would argue those in the ML space that are doing this, that are overhyping this, the banks, the finance community, the quants, the tech space specifically, you're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution here. Internet has already killed thought over facts. I don't know how to fix this. I've talked to so many academic professors on the same issue and they all mainly agree with this. Some of them don't, but most of them do. We seem to be in a new era of Dimitri, I need the degree, or I need a job and I need to make money because I have things I want to do. Tell me what to do and I will do those things and I will check these boxes and then I will move on. So I will get my degree. I will get paid. I pay people to think. I don't pay people to check boxes. I don't pay people to get something done in the sense that it's a redundancy to get done. This is huge. Like, people keep asking, Dimitri, tell me the 3 things I have to do to get into quant finance to make money. Tell me this. How do I get a degree? Check these boxes. How do I make 6 figures? And there are a lot of you on my channel, which you guys are minorities. My channel in general has a ton of minorities in this ideology. And the fact that people are like, no, Dimitri, I really want to read this text. And like, which book did you like? And I've sat down and talked to students that from my channel, and I've met up with people in real life meetups, and they're truly interested. And it shocks me because the amount of people I get that, override me with this check the box mentality, I think is an internet thing. Like, they think that there's an exact answer for everything, and there's not. Often there's different ways to get the things and thought processes, and there's a whole bunch to it. Life is complicated. Even if you go outside, like I'm walking out in my backyard today, it's beautiful. There's flowers and there's nature, and I'm looking at like the biodiversity and the amount of plants that I have. And I'm like, my daughter loves all the bugs, and we're looking at, earwigs and ladybugs and potato bugs and earthworms, which are red wigglers. And there's all kinds of things. It's really exciting. And yet I look at these check the box people and think they're not excited to live. They don't have that purpose. They don't have that drive. And this is a lot of my concerns with AI, is that we're going to be, again, dumbing this down. Like, we're going to be catering to this ideology. And I believe the check the box mentality came with the rise of the internet. Of course, it's always existed, but I think it's become much more popular because people think like, okay, I just need to trick somebody on an interview. So again, I'm tricking someone. Like, these AI models are fooling people into thinking that, it's actually thinking. I need to fool you into thinking that I can do the job for you. And that's the problem here, is that when you get in the real world, you need to come up with creative new ideas and really think things through. And thinking is the critical thing that makes us human, which machines will never, ever do. You might think that they are thinking. So we are thinking, they're thinking, but they don't think. So they don't know that we're thinking because they don't think. The fact that Lex Friedman entertained this idea on his podcast was like, it makes me question like who he is and how academic he really is. And does he really understand machine learning and machines? And more importantly, the real world outside of machine learning. So he might be a guru on machine learning, but it doesn't seem you understand human existence. These sorts of things are more challenging. The philosophy side of all this is where a lot of these things start to fail, because again, it all works in a little bubble, but it doesn't work in the real world. There's a lot of downsides for these. The Sam Altman interview, so I'll touch on this a little bit. It was quite upsetting to watch in the sense that it was just like, somebody put in the comments, he came off very arrogant. I would agree. It came off as well as the typical ML attitude, which I do not like. And we're going to send them one of these other slides. But the machine learning mentality, the data science approach, again, from those who are not super experts in data science and machine learning, they're experts. I'm reading many of their papers. They're done great work. So these geniuses are looking at statistical methods for applying machine learning to get more robustness and understanding out of these models. That's where the value lies. But the majority of data science and machine learning seems to be saying, okay, I got a bunch of mud, I'm going to throw it on the wall, I'm going to see what sticks, whatever looks like the best prediction or looks like the right answer, that's the model, it works. That's the impression I'm getting out of what OpenAI is doing with GPT-4, GPT 3.5. There are some understanding and guidelines they kind of get as engineers, but they've overly designed this LLM to be way too massive because they're trying to do everything under the sun with it. And then they keep throwing on the tag, it's just a black box. Like, it's just we don't really understand. It's just a black box. Like, you're the expert. You designed this thing and it could have very devastating consequences. And your response to the public is, it's just a black box. Like, we don't understand it. Guys, it's snake oil. They're selling snake oil here. I just don't think you have the right people in the right positions. I know he tries to come off. He reminds me of the guy from FTX, Sam. Anyways, Sam, the guy from FTX, he reminds me of him in the sense that, like, I'm giving all this money away to good causes and to charities and to political donations, and I'm sponsoring all these. I'm just such a good person. And then it's like, oh yeah, you're screwing over your investors. You're stealing money. You're having all these other issues behind the scenes. It's a Ponzi scheme. The whole thing's collapsing. but he's trying to give off that appearance of like, they're very good. They're doing it for the right intentions. I think Sam Altman has that same issue. The fact that when Lex Fridman asked him multiple times, doesn't like the criticism online, doesn't that bug you? Like, doesn't that get under your skin? The fact that he answered it does not bug him and he doesn't really care. He doesn't really pay attention. That's an indication from human emotion and thought processes here. Again, thinking, not using a machine. You're not looking at the consequences of this. You're not looking at your actions if it screws up and you designed it, it's your fault. Like, you need to take some responsibility here. And I think that's coming off of, there just doesn't seem to be a lot of responsibility. They wrote some math on paper. They threw some mud on the wall. Some good things happened. They followed it down. They keep fitted more stuff and making more mistakes. And it's getting better and better. And they don't really understand it. But now they themselves have gotten caught up in the hype and they're like worshiping the math because they think the math is somehow magical and they've broken the code and figured it out. No, that's not what's happening though. It's sad. It's scary for anyone who actually models and takes models apart for a living and tries to understand what's going on behind the scenes and the details and the issues and why it's predicting the way it's predicting and why we're having issues with these sorts of things. So doing the actual modeling due diligence piece here, which no one seems to be doing these days, you'll understand that you need to understand these sorts of models and take them apart and understand them. The fact that they don't understand it and do it, it makes me realize, yeah, they might be on cutting edge. They might have come up with a model no one else has, right? That's cool. But at the same time, it's very dangerous. You don't understand it. So that was a big disappointment from here. Again, not understanding where value comes from. So the same thing with DeFi and tech, they just don't understand that value. So this came off as universal basic income comments and humans not working and, machines will just do everything for us. This is just not very realistic. Again, this is like the DeFi argument. They don't understand that human capital and work generates value. That value is then converted into some sort of currency, whether it's gold or dollars or pesos or I don't know, some crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum. You have to have value creation to do that. Even if you create AI, which is generating the value, somebody owns the machines, the servers, the code, the processes to generate that. Again, it takes electricity to run all these servers to run this code. Where do you think electricity is coming from? I mean, it's coming from petroleum and coal, probably. It's coming from fossil fuels. That's where the majority of electricity is coming from. If not, it's coming from nuclear. Some of it's coming from renewable sources like air and wind, sun, and all that. But again, this isn't AI. You still have to have all these jobs and machinery and maintenance and processes and things to keep all the machine going. Again, these are things that just seem like they're being overlooked here. Again, the value comes from the humans that are doing the work. The value does not come from the machine. The machine makes more efficiency, which makes GDP grow. So one person can make now more output. GDP and country livability standards, I have that in here as well on the slide, that's generated by the efficiency. So the AI technology will help us become more efficient per person, but you still need every person working to generate value. That's how reality works here. No one's going to just stop working, and then a bunch of people are going to continue to work to maintain all these systems for the rest that aren't working. This is delusion. This is class biases. This is just tech people with no understanding of economics. And then Lex Fridman asking, as I mentioned before, is it conscious? This is like, how do you define it? Where do you think we're going? How soon is it going to happen? I'm just like, that leads us to the next slide here. This just leads me to pseudo intelligence here. I'm not saying Lex isn't smart. I know he has his expertises. But this leads me to the Thomas Sowell comment here. So I have a little Thomas Sowell reference on the bottom where Thomas Sowell, so some of his ideology, I think there's a book on this as well on intellects. The argument is you might be really smart in one area and then you're trying to apply your knowledge into other areas. So I constantly worry about this with my channel because I talk a lot about math and stats and quantitative finance careers. But what a lot of people don't realize is it also covers economics and finance and politics. And again, how far out can I go and still remain an actual expert where I'm not just, I don't want to leverage my popularity or my, deemness of like, oh, I think he's smart because he does math and I don't know math. I might not know what I'm talking about when we get into other things, other topics. So I try to limit my scope to what I think is more of my expertise here. With Lex, I think he's quite interesting. I think he has great points and has had some great interviews. So thumbs up to Lex. I'm not knocking him personally. But I think this conversation just turned into pseudo intellects where it was like, nobody really knew what was going on. Now they're just like throwing ideas out there and like, neither of them understand economics or finance or government or politics. It doesn't quite seem. Again, understanding where this value lies, it's not in the pattern recognition. I think we will see much more value. So again, if you're going into machine learning or quantitative finance, the value is taking the current models that we have and building new, better models. Often a lot of this comes down to efficiencies through pure mathematics. So not pure math, just math in general, because pure math is a type of math compared to applied math. But anyways, it's going to take math. So if you do this massive system and it provides all this electricity to generate this idea through AGI and it's helping us become more efficient, how do we make that code and model simpler and easier and more efficient to run, which requires less energy and less maintenance? That's where the value is added. So these jobs aren't going away. Quants, for those of you who don't know, we build statistical models, we build mathematical models, and we build machine learning models, AI models, you want to call it AI. We do automation within these processes. We look at how these things get set up. Again, you start getting into quant dev. Quant dev is going to be optimizing the ideas and research and thoughts and model development process into code that's more efficient in the quant dev. These jobs aren't going to get away. Quant dev, so I think I have a slide on this. But we'll get to this in a second here, but it's not going to go away. It's just you have new tools to help you be more efficient at your job. Right? This AI doesn't do things for you. It's not going to predict the world. And I'll touch on that here in a second. But there's a tech disconnect and I think a class disconnect from the fact of what America really is. And part of it is I think a lot of these individuals, they grew up middle class, upper class, they got thrown into universities, they went to private Ivy League schools, they got great jobs, they're making tons of money, and there's been no struggle along the way. And of course, most of them don't stop to look at America. So I grew up as a child with a traveling salesman as a father. And I sat in a car and I traveled the country and I saw all these little podunk towns like Bishop, California, or Weed, California. There are all kinds of other places like Rexburg, Idaho. I'm trying to think of all these little towns off the top of my head, but Enos, Texas, for example. But these parts of America exist. The reality of America is not that everyone's middle and upper class and we all have tech jobs. And I think they cannot step out of this ideology. They cannot step out of this bubble to put themselves in the shoes of this. But there's a class and occupation disconnect. So even with those in tech, they seem to have no comprehension of what finance and banking is doing. So I come from finance and banking. I now work in fintech with a bunch of people that are on the tech side. I work with all kinds of people in general. I try to interview interesting people in different areas, but understanding the differences, understanding how the population is diverse, not just understanding the majority, understanding how populations work, the people, the infrastructure, how you get food to your table is far more complicating and uses a lot more science and technology than most of you think. If you just go on YouTube too, like Google like farmer on YouTube, and you'll get really cool things like the tractors. So I grew up in a wheat farming town. Went to a school, my undergrad, and like the tractors can take temperature and measures in the soil, and they know how much water's in the soil, and they know how much fertilizer to apply to optimize, to save money, to reduce environmental impacts. It's super fascinating. But there's this big disconnect. I don't think most of these people in tech, in the machine learning space, understand this. They're not getting this because they don't come from these other backgrounds. They're not taking the time to talk to the average man who these models are going to impact here. And my biggest gripe with this interview with the CEO here from OpenAI, he does not understand what America is. He clearly did not understand the difference between a democracy and a republic, which many people confuse. And he was pandering to his far left ideas of social democracy here, which is complete nonsense. Again, I'm not going to go into these ideology pieces here as much. But a democracy caters to the majority. So we all vote and the majority wins, and that's the decision we go with. The United States is a republic in the sense that we believe in unalienable rights. We believe that we want to pass rules that are the freest, less government involved possible, which I know many people don't vote this way, but it's supposed to cater to the minority. Freedom of speech does not protect the majority. I don't know if you know this. It protects the minority. Again, you look at all the amendments we have, like Second Amendment for gun right ownership. Again, it protects people that want to own guns. Now, I don't know who's in the majority and minority in this because there's quite a few gun owners in this country. But again, it protects these rights. We're supposed to protect the diversity and the uniqueness of the society, and not in the way that the woke left has been doing it, but in the sense that everybody has an opinion, everybody has an idea, everybody has the right to do things because we're all human. Again, it's human versus machine. Machines don't get right. That's not how it works. But the people running the machines, they need to be responsible for this. Understanding how governments are structured and set up is critically important here. The fact that you're like pushing ideology and trying to get things changed, and like, I see us all not working, and I think universal basic income is great, and I haven't really had to do that much in my life because, you know, I'm middle class and yada, yada, yada. I get it. I get it. You haven't disconnected and seen the rest of the world. But please, I just ask you, take some economics classes, like basic economics. Don't take like bias classes on it. Just go take general economics, understand the base ideas, realize the impacts that you're going to have here with AI. Again, I don't want to see us going into the same chaotic thing as we're reducing diversity, which is what these models are going to do. We're all going to have the same ideology, the same thoughts, and of course, you know, touting how great democracy is and we all need to vote for it, and socialism is great and everybody's going to have a better standard of living and we're going to raise the floor without, you know, capping the ceiling, according to Sam Altman. It's just politics, guys. It's why he's a good CEO of this firm. He's great at like pandering to all these things and putting on a show. Quant Finance. So let's dive into what many of you wanted to talk about here. Quants are paid to solve complex problems. We are not paid to code in regurgitate financial equations. I know this is the biggest failure in the finance community. This is the biggest failure in the quantitative finance education space as well. We teach all these stupid models, then you get into the real world, and if you're an actual quant, you are not just, you know, going, oh, there's this equation I pulled from a textbook and I'm going to plug things in. No, you're actually going out and building models, new models with new variables and different structures, and putting them together and solving problems. And you'll find out businesses, the people actually using the models, have all kinds of interesting things they want them to do that other models haven't done in the past. And you have to design these things and think about them and look at all kinds of different pieces of it. So quants do a lot more complicating things. It's not going to be replaced by ML or AI. Again, we are doing the research on this. So you look at like OpenAI. Do you think OpenAI is going to make OpenAI non-existent? Like, think about that. No, it's not. You still have to have a company to generate and process all this. Quants do this in the finance and banking space. That's just what quants do by definition. Again, machine learning, AI, same thing. You're going to have people to develop models and structures and designs and put them through. You need smart and bright people, guys. You need people to think. That's what we really want here. AI is going to reduce this. But again, you need smart people to think, to process, and build models. Sadly, it seems finance has more morals and ethics than the tech side has been having with this, which is kind of concerning. So if you look at banking and finance, there's been a lot of criticism with the SVB failure and Credit Suisse going under, and now there's concerns with Deutsche, and you had the 2008 crisis, and you had the run on the banks in the 30s, and all these issues. Right? Banks have a lot of regulation. Again, part of it's governmental, part of it's people like me in the industry that agree we need rules and regulations and ethics and morals and standards. And finance seems to, we get this. It's why we're slow. It's why we're not as cutting edge as we seem as tech. We have guardrails that we have put in place. We all agree we need to stay inside of. Yes, there are people that don't like the guardrails. There are people that want to change from it. There are people that want to do all kinds of stuff. There are unethical and unmoral people everywhere. It doesn't matter which industry or side or wherever you come from. But it seems sadly that finance is getting this idea with model risk management teams far, far more than the tech industry. And the tech industry doesn't seem to have this. I would argue to the buy side, so the investing side of finance doesn't have very good model risk management teams, so validation teams. They manage the risk, they look at the models, they ask the questions, they make sure these things are sound, and they're constantly working on this to make sure that we're doing things the correct way without harming the users. This is what I don't see a lot of with OpenAI. There's a lot of brandy, hand wavy, like, oh, we're really concerned with this. But, you know, if you really wanted to bias it and cause issues, you could, and we'll let you do that. And, you know, of course, we'll just let governments do it. And it's just like, people are going to figure out how to generate GPT on their own, and it's going to be just as good as theirs. It's going to be competitors. It's an open market. But in the wrong hands, the concern is there going to be one major player controlling the market, just like we see social media, where you have a couple big players and that's it. Again, these things are concerning, and ethics and morals should be brought into this. I just don't think tech is really thinking this through here. Now, again, there are people in tech that are. We see all the whole thing with, you know, Elon Musk, and there's been people and founders. I think like a few of the big tech firms have stepped up. I think like Microsoft has said it as well, even though they're generating their own AI. It could be for greedy reasons because they want to make a profit and they want to catch up and whatever. But again, I think the moral and ethics piece needs to be thought through, and I think there are some voices out there that understand it, that understand the risks. But there's also a vast majority with pedal to the floor, check the box mentalities that just aren't doing that. And then finally here, the pros and the cons for quants here. So it could make coding faster and easier. I know there's already like the Copilot piece, which again is an OpenAI tool. It's cool, it makes it faster. I have not used it. Can provide new insights into model structure and design. We've already been doing this with machine learning. We use decision trees to help process and function and get all these pieces working together and look at the way that we could have new relationships or new feature engineering to make things more efficient or unique or find patterns we might not have seen before. It's awesome. It's great pros. It'd be a great tool. It could help us in many ways. The cons, though, is it's going to make poor quality employees generate wildly faster work, which means more work for people that actually have to look at it and judge quality and all that. So that's going to be a challenge. It'll minimize creativity. So the solutions to being, so it's going to minimize creativity due to the fact that it's going to be a crutch for, again, these people that just aren't qualified. It's not going to make unqualified people qualified. I think that's what everyone's thinking. Like, oh, someone with a high school degree is going to use this tool and it's going to replace me. And bad employees are bad employees, guys. It's not going to solve all the data issues either. So, I have a little bit on here, data quality, data sampling, data issues, data validation, all that process we talked about. Again, they try to do some of it with the OpenAI stuff and GPT. But again, it's too much data to actually validate here. So these sorts of things cause issues. Quants have to do this work in some way, shape, or form. Data is quant finance is often proprietary and expensive, and there are also regulations that prevent sharing of it. So again, GPT and all, it's not going to be able to do modeling for you in these spaces. Like they're not going to have access to the information in the data. GPT was also trained on garbage data. So again, where is the quality piece here? I'm guessing a lot of the data that GPT used was good quality data, but there's going to be some garbage that it trained on. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Not all of it's garbage. There's some garbage it trained on, and that's going to create biases and issues within there. Have they come out yet? I don't know. They've been trying to fix problems, but those are kind of issues as well here. There's some few more pieces here as well in the end. Some of the points, though, is just because you can build something doesn't mean you should build it. So there's a chemical weapons convention. I'm reading a book on Nazi Germany right now, Operation Paperclip. Gets into this warfare kind of piece here. We have nuclear treaties. Again, nuclear has great benefits for energy production, but horrible benefits for weapons. Gain of function research has horrible consequences as well. Just because you can build it, just because it perhaps has good benefits, doesn't mean you should necessarily just build things to build things. You really need to think things through here. So I hope this presentation gave you guys just my thought process is scattered. There's so many details. There's so many ethics and morals and pieces with this. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's going to help us in many ways, and I am for that. I think we should keep developing and moving forward. I don't think we should stop. But I think we should slow down and look at the consequences and moral issues with it, putting guardrails on and figuring out who can and can't use it. So anyways, thanks for watching. And as always, until next time.